Hello and welcome to CZenStar, This Week in Star Citizen. Today is April 3rd, 2015. I'm Citizen Ed of CZenStarNews.com, where we put the citizen first. This week's Citizen Star of the Week, Gray-Headed Gamer, for his series of Star Citizen Island videos exploring our favorite ships and in-game assets. Keep up the good work, Gray-Headed Gamer. I'll be mentioning a number of links, articles, images, and videos throughout the show. If you'd like to know more about them, navigate to the CZenStarNews.com website and look for the This Week in Star Citizen show notes article. Last week's Citizen Star, Teller, continues to produce some amazing images, which he posts to Reddit, and you'll frequently see them posted to my Twitter account. Check them out. I wanted to give a special recognition to my good friend Years 100 for his wonderful article on the human element, Why Star Citizen Will Succeed. I thought it was a great telling of his experiences at South by Southwest, getting to meet several devs, including Chris Roberts, an experience I've had, and I felt much the same as he did, but he put it very eloquently, and I think it's definitely worth a read. This year's CIG April Fool's Gag was, in my opinion, inspired, starting with what I like to call Capture the Fish mode. When players logged into the game, they found that the fish had escaped their captivity and transformed the hangar into one big aquarium. On the forums, conversations were transformed by word substitutions, swapping fish in for ship, fin in for wing, sea for space, sail for engine, and the like. All this led to some pretty surreal conversations. Pledge Store had some truly entertaining additions, nautical and fish, plus Wing Commander favorites, as well as random sci-fi references like the Planet Express ship and Farscape's Moya. Don't forget to check out the April 1st edition of ATV set in the year 2055. The current state of Arena Commander is continued instability. It's been improving, but we're obviously still having some problems, particularly multiplayer and very particularly private matches. If you're willing to play anybody, you can probably get a match, but trying to play your friends has been very difficult. Will Leverett, who's been handling the feedback, handling a lot of the DevOps, has been hailed as a hero for keeping up with all of the issues, taking bug reports. Will responded on the forums, just doing my part, as the last button on the CIG shirt. The newly released Vanguard led the way to a new high watermark of 77 mil in crowdfunded dollars. Generally well received, although theory-crafting debates did break out. Some arguments over whether or not it's adequate for a long-range fighter to have projectile guns, and we found out that the torpedoes are actually not standard on the Vanguard, in spite of the fact that they're shown in the holo viewer, but instead will be available as an upgrade. There's actually quite a bit of staffing news to cover this week at CIG. We found out that Will Lewis is no longer with the company. Of course, as per standard operating procedure for these kinds of things, no comment has been made about the reason for his departure, whether he left voluntarily to pursue other opportunities, or whether or not there was some issues. Don't expect an explanation. This is standard. It opens people up to liabilities. Personally, I found Will to be a great guy and hope that he does well in all of his endeavors. He will be missed. Jenny Varner moved to LA. Jenny is community content manager, heading up social media and a few other aspects of the community team. So it's great to see her in the Santa Clara studio, where she can get well connected in with the rest of the community and marketing teams. If you're paying attention, in Around the Verse this week, we also saw a new producer. Lisa Ohanian has been added to the LA producer team. She's formerly with Activision. And in my opinion, this is a really important hire. Miles Lee. Miles comes from Daybreak Game Company, which is formerly Sony online entertainment, where he was responsible for internal server deploys, live server deploys, and build system maintenance. Miles will be their QA liaison to DevOps and will be helping in efforts to expand their automated testing. This is really important for us getting a nice, stable build and keeping Star Citizen stable as it moves forward and gets more complex. Really, 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 really important. A sexy hire, if you ask me. So, Miles, hope you do a good job there. I think that's going to be an incredibly demanding position. Also, the new design director, Todd Pappy, who's recently hired from Crytek and was a former God of War dev, came over from Frankfurt and spent a week with Tony Zervek discussing high-level design for Star Citizen and delving into the nitty-gritty things like NPC AI. If you watched ATV this week, you also saw the James Wright interview, engine programmer. He started digging into something very interesting that's near and dear to our hearts, talking about how you need to scale well and being able to deliver on what they've been talking about. To have capital ships fighting with each other while groups board, and you have local physics sim on the capital ships with local gravity, and you have two capital ships duking it out with a bunch of fighters going around. Pretty exciting stuff. So, what's coming up in our near future? The 1.1a patch is being evaluated for the PTU, the testing environment, which will feature a flyable Gladiator, the fighter bomber. Also, the announcement of the upcoming Pirate Swarm mode is sparking pirate rights arguments, which is considered ironic by most of us. The FBS is pulling together. We're hoping to hear a release date soon. Also announced is a Seda Ball mode, which is an esports mode based on some discussions way back in November 2013 in the Lore Builder feature. Also, in 10 for the Chair, the lack of progress for the Linux port was discussed. Seems there is no longer faith in the Let Crytek Do It solution. The performance just wasn't there that they were seeing, so they're looking at possible OpenGL Next or Vulkan. Wrapped up in this is potentially a Macintosh port as well. I know some people would really like to see that. Wired Magazine produced a actually pretty good article. Unfortunately, when they published it to the web, they gave it something of a clickbaity title. Title being, "Fans have dropped $77 million on this guy's buggy half-built game," which is, I guess, to a certain extent true, if just half the story. It's kind of a cheap shot at a game where they haven't spent the $77 million yet, and it's still in development. But actually, the article was actually quite well written, well rounded, kind of did tell both sides of the story. There was a Reddit thread also talking about the anatomy of how articles get published. I think it's important to probably remember that the poor guy who wrote this article had likely very little to do with writing that title. Also, a nice piece of art. A shout out to Zachary Scott, who was apparently the photographer for that. That's a really nice portrait of Chris Roberts. I called that Halo of Destruction. I know many of you have been following Eric Peterson's work in the Descent Underground Kickstarter. I think it's important to put a call out there. We're seeing some donor fatigue out here. We've got 6 days to go. It's pledged $346,000 of a $600,000 goal, so at the current rate, it's not going to make it, in spite of the Steam community green light and endorsements, and in fact, backer pledges from both Chris and Aaron Roberts. We still got a little ways to go, and I would like to put a call out for everybody who cares about this genre, the space sim, to get out there and pledge. I think it's very important. And it's our old buddy Eric Peterson. the wingman. Come on. And the whole crowd over there. Our old friends. We need to support them. Don't you think? Don't forget, Disco Lando wants your Arena Commander highlights. Looking for something around 30 seconds, post them on YouTube. There's more instructions on the forums. We'll post a link in the show notes. And that's the news for now. This has been Citizen Ed of CZenStarNews.com. Hope to see you all next week in Star Citizen. CitizenStarNews.com, where we put the citizens first. Engage with Star Citizen today. Follow the news, both development and in lore, or write your own articles, features, and fiction. We take citizen submissions. There's room on staff, or become a partner. You can let us help develop your brand. CitizenStarNews.com, where the citizen is the star, chronicling your stories. The history of the verse is unfolding now, real time. Don't wait until 2946 to be a part of Star Citizen. CitizenStarNews.com. Would you like to know more?